Hey, I'm Mark,
And I'm Chris.
and we're the leftovers.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
I did not agree to that.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Mark.
What's happening? What's going on, Chris?
You gotta find some new material.
I said, what's going on,
Yeah,
man?
after you went with what's happening.
It's a good day, Chris. Come on, man. Get with it.
Depends
You just
on where
had
you are in the
a
world.
Coca-Cola in a glass bottle. Does it get any better? Does it get any better? What does your common sense tell you?
There's a lot of things that are better. That's what common sense tells me.
But that's a good drink.
It is a good drink.
Cold Coca-Cola in a glass bottle. Good stuff.
But what you said there has got me thinking.
Burp. What Coke makes you do?
What is common sense?
What is it?
I mean,
It's funny you should ask.
we talk about that our whole life. Oh, that's just common sense. That's just common sense. Well, what is common sense? Because it just feels like today there ain't a whole lot of it if it is an actual thing.
Interesting.
Okay.
I said it was interesting. I said it was interesting. I didn't say I was wanting to talk about it or
Well,
something.
Let's talk about it.
Mustachio.
Mustache. I must ask you a question.
Mustachio. Ha 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 ha.
All right, let's go back to what we were talking about.
Common sense, Chris. Yes, here's one of the many definitions that you'll get on the internet because it's hard to define.
Yes.
So, one, sound practical judgment concerning everyday matters, or a basic ability to perceive, understand, and judge in a manner that is shared by nearly, and I repeat, nearly all people. Nearly all people. So it's not 100% sure that someone perceives something as right, but almost everybody.
All right, I have a question for you then.
I have an answer.
Whenever somebody says, well, that's just common sense, is that really common sense?
But I think that it's very situational because the person that asks, well, that's just common sense. Does that person have common sense on that situation? Question mark.
Well, I mean, it depends on what it is.
Yeah. We'll start at the bottom and work our way up. A simple analogy here would be, I seen these two examples online, thought they were good and commonsensical. You are younger than your father.
Yes.
That's common sense. Most everyone would agree with that. Not everyone.
Why wouldn't
Most.
everybody agree with that?
There is zero questions you can ask in this world, and 100% of people will agree.
Okay.
Zero.
But, okay, before you even get to your second example, what are things today that 10, 15 years ago would be considered common sense today? Or common sense then, but not
low.
today?
Let's start low. And then that seems to be a little more difficult to answer.
See, I don't think it is, though.
You don't?
No.
All right.
An example being...
So you said, what is common sense today
No.
that wasn't?
What is something that was a lot of people would consider to be common sense 10, 15 years ago that today people, just because of the way people feel, it's not actually a common thing that people believe now?
Now, before we move on,
Okay.
common sense, common knowledge, not the same.
How are they different?
Well, the way I read it, and again, this study on this is not exact because when you're using senses, we're not all the same. So we're trying to get close.
Wait, you and I aren't the same person?
We're close. Just not. So common knowledge So if someone had knowledge of growing corn in the 20s.
Well, what I learned is rain makes corn, corn makes whiskey, whiskey makes my baby a little bit frisky.
We'll ask her later.
I'm sorry, I heard that and I had to. I didn't sing.
Common knowledge would say that's a country song.
I don't know if
Common knowledge would, because musically speaking, that's not a rock song.
No, it's a country song.
That's not a rap song.
I could make it a rap song.
Knowledge would be, I've heard that on the radio, so my knowledge tells me that is a country song. Common sense would say you can't sing. See?
That just went from that hurt my feelings.
I was trying to show you the difference in common sense, common knowledge.
I'm just a little congested. You don't have. I guess I'm gonna have to quit.
Quit singing. No. So yeah, if someone was growing corn in the 1920s,
Okay.
and common knowledge at the time would be most everybody, we're talking about it in the country, would know how to grow corn. Common knowledge, right? And again, this is not an exact science. I'm trying to get where I think I understand what I'm talking about. So the common sense of that would be you don't plant your corn on full moon or whatever. I don't have any sense about planting corn.
Yeah, because that sounds more like a superstition type.
Well,
thing.
it could have in their community, whatever that community is, maybe their sense of planting corn on a full moon, they didn't have good luck with it. So they're like, well, hey, George, that's common sense to not plant your corn on a full moon. Because that is their sense of when you should plant your corn.
I get where you're coming from, but in today's age of, I say today's age,
and then the 2020s, the common sense is not the same as it was then.
Well, because we've learned new things, and so
and lost a few things.
What do you mean lost a few things?
Well, I think the common knowledge of planting a garden is not as common as it was 100 years ago.
I'll agree with that. There's
as far as losing, that's how we've lost.
Okay, that makes sense. Because, I mean, back in the 20s or whatever, I mean, you kind of had to rely on yourself
for the most
part.
For your
food. Mm-hmm. You couldn't really just go down the road to the grocery store and pick up whatever.
Buc-ee's.
Nope, there's no
Going
Buc-ee's.
to Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's is a fun place to go.
Never been.
They're building one in Murfreesboro.
Really?
Yeah. But back to what... I guess, though, a lot of people today, when they talk about common sense, I guess they're meaning common knowledge a lot of times. Because a lot of times it's when people don't know something that they or a lot of people would think that they would know.
Example.
Well, now we're going to get into it. Okay.
I didn't want to stay out of it.
An example of that being you're a boy or a girl. There's not 82 other different genders or sexes or anything. You're either a boy or a girl. You were made a certain way. Mm-hmm. You can feel a different way, but that does not change what you are.
As far as our subject today.
But this goes to our subject.
Yes.
Because
common, as we read earlier, would mean the majority of the people, not all, majority of the people would think one way. the majority of the people know there's a boy, there's a girl. Now, that's not everybody. Some think there's lots of genders. And that's okay. They can think that way. But as far as common sense goes, the majority of the people think boy, girl.
That would be common knowledge.
I'd say it's both. Your sense is that's a girl. Even if you don't know knowledge, you sense that's a girl. When I'm looking at you.
Well, I was the one who thought about this topic.
You did.
I had fun trying to convince you about this.
You did.
And it's just, the reason I was thinking about it was, just looks like in the world today, and I know a lot of it is the news media going after the loudest voices or whatever, but that's what gets out there into the world, and that's what gets views, that's what gets traction. So more and more people see it, hoping that more and more people adopt that thinking and that belief. Because it's like we've talked about before, our brains are easily susceptible to the easiest thing. And if the easiest thing is, the TV and the news said that this is the thing I'm supposed to agree with, that's what I'm going to do. It's taking that, what should be common, to see that, what they're saying right there is not actually true or right, but because it's the easiest thing that, everybody else is going to see this, everybody else is going to believe it, so I'm going to run along with it.
Well, the news in the last quarter century has went to extreme, and they have to grab your attention.
Yes.
And any way they can do that, they will. When I was growing up, back in my day, I know you love that, we had a newspaper called The Inquirer. The Inquirer would publish the crazy, quote unquote, crazy stories. And people standing in line at the grocery store looking at the other newspapers had regular news on it. Well, they see this one, and it's, three-headed dog, or, lots of just way hard to believe stories. Yet they had a little bit of truth to them, but the majority of it was just lies. And that, in my opinion, is where our news has went to, is trying to grab the attention.
Well, that's because that's where they make their money, is when they can grab somebody's attention, they're grabbing it for ad dollars. The more people that see it, the more people that grab it, the more likely they can sell an advertisement on their paper somewhere.
So, French writer, historian, and philosopher, famous for his wit and his advocacy of freedom of speech,
Napoleon.
Franco Marie Aurel, something, coined the phrase, common sense, not so common. You wondered where it come from? Now you know.
I've never actually thought about where it came from.
There you go. You know now.
Because I hear it all the time. And
It had an origin.
Yeah.
Yet, my opinion is common sense has to be common. Because if it was not so common, it would not be known as common sense. It would just be named sense. Period.
Well, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you have to see. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot more to that quote that you had given, but I mean, it's true where you see something and you're like, do they not have the sense enough that they should have known that this was going to end horribly?
Maybe not. Maybe not. It troubles me when people use the phrase, well, they don't have common sense. And they may be 100% correct, but you got to realize where it's coming from. We don't all have common sense on everything. We have our own little niche of common sense that we want to stick behind because we know.
Be sense then, because
but common meaning the majority of the people believe like you believe, making it common sense. And so I find it troubling, I guess, that someone would say, well, that driver don't have common sense. You don't have the sense God give a goose. You ever heard that one?
I've heard that one.
You just heard it.
It doesn't make sense to me, but
goose might be smarter than we are.
Apparently donkeys are.
They don't even have to work or anything. They don't have a job. They don't have to wear clothes. I mean, who's smart here?
We don't have to wear clothes.
We need to wear clothes. That common sense thing comes into play.
Talk about yourself.
Common sense says wear clothes.
I could go around showing my 6-pack off.
You could. And 12-pack. Whatever. You can go to the store and buy anything.
24-pack.
2 liter. Oh, mercy.
How far off the rails can we go?
Well, here's the thing. Albert Einstein once said, common sense is nothing more than a deposit of prejudices laid down in the mind before you reach 18. There you go. Go with that, Chris.
Say that again.
Really?
Yes. Because I'm thinking about it, and I want to hear it again so that I can. It's not I'm not listening. It's like I want to hear it again.
All right. Common sense. Nothing more than a deposit of prejudices laid down in the mind before you're 18. I guess he's saying what you've acquired up to 18 years old is one-sided crap that you've learned from other people, and that's what you're rolling with. That's common sense in his mind. Now, you got to realize, his mind was way different than ours.
Yes, it was.
So he may have not had common sense because he probably wasn't in, the great number of what we're talking about. He was probably the small minority that thought, yeah, they're all stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they don't know what I'm talking about.
Majority of the time, a lot of people say that when you find someone that is very intelligent, especially when it comes to like book smarts or whatever, they're usually the people that most people say don't have a lot of common sense.
That's why, because they're over the masses when it comes to thinking. They see things way differently,
but yes,
than what the commoners, if you will, see things.
I wouldn't put that over them though. That would be a difference.
Yeah, but
difference of thought.
As far as scales go, it's easier to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Put them side by side. It's kind of hard to look at on a graph. Follow me?
Well, I mean, you look at the show Big Bang Theory.
I do have on occasion.
I have as well. You have Sheldon Cooper. He's very, very intelligent, but
Bazinga.
But something that the common man might think of.
Driving to work.
He didn't think about.
Changing his pants on the bus.
And so you have...
Bus pants.
You have...
It's one of my favorites.
Penny, the next door neighbor, come in.
Very common.
She's not as intelligent, but she knows...
In some ways.
In some ways. But in others... And what normal people would consider common sense, she's lacking in a few areas in that show. But
So I wonder if Albert Einstein does not have a good point here or stupid point in thinking that sense is perceiving by means of sense organs, meaning if you smell something that smells like spaghetti, it's likely spaghetti. Commonly speaking, if everyone smells something that smells like spaghetti, then it's spaghetti. I'm guessing common sense would tell us we are all smelling spaghetti. But if Lucy smells a skunk and we all smell spaghetti, isn't it common knowledge that it's spaghetti that we're smelling?
Not necessarily.
Commonly speaking, we all smell the same thing. Lucy smells something totally different. But Lucy's not wrong. She's just not in the common belief of what we are smelling.
It can be that it has the scent of something, but it's not actually what it is. It's like you could be, I guess you could say, brainwashed to think that something smells a certain way, but...
Who did the... Well, yeah, say it again. Who brainwashed Lucy?
Who's to say Lucy's the one that was brainwashed?
Me.
Why?
Because I wrote the story.
Well,
seriously, if Lucy's the only one out of 100 people that smell skunk over spaghetti, she's the one that's different, if you will.
I'm not saying different. I'm saying incorrect in the thing. In the
analogy of smelling spaghetti, she's wrong. Commonly speaking.
But she smells a skunk, and what if what she is actually smelling is an actual skunk? But
we're smelling, I mean, it's very, really specific.
The smell does not change. The smell does not change.
No.
But what it is does to people. Do you see what I mean?
Not at all.
They are all smelling the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be emanating from a skunk.
It's coming from spaghetti. It's my story. It's going to be spaghetti.
Well, I'm taking over your story. But what I'm getting at is sometimes the masses can be wrong. And that's what I'm getting to.
But common sense, whether they're wrong legitimately or not, it's still common known. It's commonly accepted. It's common because everybody sees it that way.
But should we?
Okay. I'm glad you asked.
No, but
so if 100 people say the earth is flat and 12 trillion people say no, it's a globe, because those 100 people said it's flat doesn't make it flat.
Correct.
Because Lucy said it's a skunk, it's not a skunk.
But what?
Even though her perception was a skunk, even though those 100 people perception of the globe is flat, it's not flat.
Okay, let's flip this around. What if 12 trillion people think it's flat and only 100 people think it's a globe?
Common sense says it's flat.
But they would still be wrong.
Nope. Because if 12 million, trillion, whatever it was, people thought that way, there's a reason for it. That's why it's common.
No.
Yep.
People always say, well, however many million people can't be wrong. Yeah, they can be.
Not really.
How can't they be?
Well,
let me rephrase.
That's walking it in the corner.
Let me rephrase that. How can? Okay, probability wise, yes. Mm-hmm. More than likely, they aren't wrong.
And that's where the common sense thing comes from. Probably they're right. More than likely, they're right.
But what if they're wrong?
It's like I said before, this is not an exact science. There can be cases where 1 in a trillion people is right. But common sense speaking, the others are right. But the one person that has the knowledge does not have the common sense that the others have. They can still be right. But they don't, and our show is common sense. Commonly speaking, the majority of the people are correct. Right? You look like your wheels are turning.
Oh, they're going about 8. One wheel's going over there, the other wheel's going that way.
Just lost one. One just fell off.
All the wheels are going different ways, and I'm trying to get them all on the same path.
Gotcha.
Because this topic has a lot of nuance to it.
Mm-hmm. It does. Yet it's very simple. You're right.
But a lot of our simple topics have a lot of nuance to them.
So in today's church, you're a member. I'm a member. Is the Trinity common sense in the fact that God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit is one? Is that common knowledge, common sense, or no?
I would say, are you talking about in Christianity or the world?
Yes. I can only speak of Christianity in America, actually, because that's where I'm at. That's what I can speak on. And what I've witnessed and what I see. Do you think that is common sense or not?
I would say yes.
I would agree.
But if we're talking about Christianity, not if we're talking about the world as a whole.
We're talking about Christianity. Because I believe this. I don't know it to be true, but I think that our way of thinking is not in the masses.
No.
That would put us without common sense pertaining to God the Father, the Trinity. But my question there, and I'm asking myself these own questions, if someone does not understand or believe in the Trinity, why would their sense even matter? It wouldn't. This would have to be in the Christian belief and not church members, but I'm talking about believers. I do believe there are active church members that aren't believers. I think they're just acting, if you will. But in the community of believers, I would believe that the Trinity is common sense.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a long way to go to get where I was talking.
Because the majority of Christian believing, I guess you can say denominations, the majority of them, that is their teaching, is that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are all one, but also they are the Trinity.
And very hard to explain to new believers, young people, some older people. Hard to explain. I had an older fella explain it to me this way one time, and I loved it. He said, if you take ice and you put it in a hot whatever pot, the ice melts, right? And then steam.
And it becomes steam.
That water went from water to ice to steam, from ice to water to steam. It was 3 different principles there, yet it was one. And he explained it as the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, all in one. It's one, yet it's 3.
Yeah,
and that stuck with me.
Difficult thing. I mean, I guess for me it wasn't so hard to get into my head, just because that's how I grew up. Was always being taught about the Trinity and the 3 in 1.
But to be able to understand that, not just hear it. Lord, I've heard it since I was a little bit kid.
But to understand,
I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I was in my probably late 20s, early 30s before it clicked with me. And I was like, oh, now I see. And my view may be not the same as 99% of Christians. That's okay. That's my knowledge of it. That's my belief of it. And I won't go into great detail here of how I understand it, but I feel very at peace with the way I understand it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's where I was blessed in how I had the ability of talking with teachers about it. I had a high school teacher that I believe he had a doctorate in theology, and so he was very knowledgeable on the subject. And then the knowledgeable people that I'd go to church with or went to church with at that time made it easier for me to understand and able to come up with my own beliefs. Not come up with, but understand. Have my own beliefs, yes.
So as we talk about common sense in the church today, is tithing common sense in the church today?
I would say no.
As far as tithing goes, which the tithe is 10%,
10%.
and that's a starting point. Is that common sense today? I don't think so.
I don't think tithing is as well, but is it also a command?
Well, some would say, and I've read these articles, that goes back to Jewish law, and we are no longer under Jewish law, so we no longer are commanded to give 10% of our belongings. And if we are, why not? Why are we not under other laws?
But we are under other Jewish laws.
Continue.
I mean, when you go back to, no, I'm having to come up with that off the top of my head. Oh, what is the,
That's a long pause.
yeah, I know.
Those kind of things usually get cut out.
Yep, hopefully.
Do you think, Chris, that being reverent in church is common sense today?
I don't know what that word means.
Reverent. Quiet, sit down, shut up, listen. I used to have a teacher that told us that exact statement. Sit down, shut up, and listen. But no, to not be so rough about it. Reverent, calm, quiet, to give opportunity for the preacher to preach and everybody else be quiet. Do you think that's common sense today in the church?
That's a hard question.
Well,
because
the Bible also says, make a joyful noise.
Well, that's different, because what I'm...
Amen. You ever hear that in church?
Yes.
Is that being reverent?
That's a question.
The first time you hear somebody say amen in church, hey, you think, hey, that person's got it happening today. But what happens if week after week after week after week at 11:22 that same person says amen?
Well, they won't be doing it in the middle of our service then if it's at 11:22.
Just saying. If your service is over at 12 and they're at 11:22 amening, commonly speaking, I'm going to guess majority of the people would say, hey, the guy's putting on a show.
Yes.
Majority, not everybody. The preacher may love it, which may be why that guy's saying it so much. Or so.
But it still would not be reverent.
No. And it's all for show.
Yep.
And we don't need any more of that in the church. We don't need a show.
Well, I mean, church is not meant to be a show.
No, but man, it sure turns into one.
It can turn into one.
Turns into one. Common sense in today's world on abortion. Does common sense tell you killing an innocent child is normal? Question mark. And where does normal play a role in common sense. Normality of things should make it common, or as well it should, but in the eyes of each side of abortion, they feel normality is their side. Common sense would say killing is bad. Yet you will hear the argument that rape and incest and blah, blah, blah is reason enough to kill a child. Each side of that argument have their own, quote unquote, common sense. But I believe, now, may be wrong, I believe the majority of our peers that we live around would agree that killing an innocent child is wrong.
But the problem is it's not common sense that inside of the womb that is a child.
Common knowledge. You wouldn't have the sense
whatever.
that there's a child in there, but you would have the knowledge that there's a child in there.
So I was listening to a debate the other morning on my way into work because they were having this discussion, and they were talking about opinions and facts, and the guy that was siding with abortion was like, well, your opinion is this, my facts are this. Like, those are still his.
And the other person could have said the same thing.
But he didn't. But
in that argument. Yeah.
Correct. But there again, it's not common sense, or as you would say, common knowledge, that is a baby inside of a person. But that's only because people are brainwashing others into thinking that that's not a human being in the womb. That is just as a lot of people would say, a bundle of cells. But at the end of the day, we're all just a bundle of cells.
That's what we are. And I just use that topic because it is heard of about every 6 months. Someone is arguing for or against. And I'm just against killing, period. That's just me. Speaking of killing periods, maybe just that.
But I mean, that's just your circle of, you only hear about it every 6 months or so. There's people
that have a fight every day. Sure.
Yeah.
Common sense in our school system today. Common sense would tell you to send your children to school fully clothed, clean, fed, and prepared. Yet,
plenty of people that don't.
Some children are not going to show up to school that way. Not through any fault of their own, but the parents do not and cannot maybe understand the necessity of common things. So
that's where if they cannot,
and that's very possible. That's something to think about. If a child shows up to school and maybe they're smelly, or maybe they have lice, I mean, that's something other children can get. No fault of the child.
No.
Maybe the parents just lack the knowledge of cleanliness, or, what we could take for granted. Not everybody does.
But there again, if they lack that knowledge, should they have that kid?
Yeah.
No, I don't mean like make the child.
No abortion, Chris. We just talked about that.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
I know.
It's should that person have custody?
Yes. 100%. Yes. A child needs to be with their mother and father that had them. Yes.
I can see it from both ways, though.
I don't. I see it one way. I'm a one-way guy.
So you're a one-way guy. So
I'm a one-way guy.
So if a parent is beating on their child, they should stay. That's where I'm getting.
I've known many kids who have gotten hit and whipped really hard, and some too extreme. And I didn't agree with the beating, but I do agree with that's your kid, that's your father, that's your mother. Yes, you need to be with them.
See, I'm not of that mindset. I'm of the mindset of, if you cannot take care of that child.
But who says you're not taking care of them properly? Common sense, common knowledge, the government.
Common sense and
The government's
common
going to tell you you're not raising your children correctly. What does that tell you? Chances are they're wrong.
The majority of the time, though, it's not the government saying it; it's society saying it,
and that makes them right. Maybe there's a mother and father that lack common sense, sense in general. They got together. Their child is a product of them, and maybe they don't have a clue. Most parents, when they have children, don't have a clue how to raise children. And you learn on the fly. So these children that you're talking about getting hurt, maybe even their arms broke, is wrong. It's terrible.
That if a child breaks their arm, that's
I'm saying that because of the parent. Yeah.
Then no,
that's terrible.
No, there is no point where a child deserves to have their arm broken.
Not deserving at all. You've got an alcoholic mom.
Then that mother cannot take care of themselves. They should not be allowed to take care of. They should not be under the tutelage.
Tutelage.
They should not have.
I like tutelage.
Okay, they should not be allowed to be over a child.
That's their child.
They
had that
they
child.
They can't take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. Why should they be allowed to take care of a child?
Because it's their child.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. So, what are you going to do with the child? Tutelage. What are you going to do with it? Or the 20 trillion children now that we're going to have homeless. What are you going to do with them?
Why would they be homeless?
Who's taking them? You can't give them to the parents that just hurt their kid because they whipped them too hard or put them in the corner too long, or ever who says what's the right way to raise children. Who gets them?
Well, where
are we putting them?
In our society and in our system, we have a system of taking care of those kids.
How's that?
They go to foster homes.
Mm-hmm.
They go.
You know what happens to them? 65% of children in foster homes gets what? Raped.
Where's that?
We just read that 2 weeks ago.
No, that was when they live in the house with.
Do you think for 1 second, I mean, even for a second, that taking a child out of a home with a mother and father is right to give that child to a single mom, a gay couple that are wanting kids all across this country? Because they're going to love them. They're all about love. This is way better to take them out of this situation with their original mother and father. And you're going to put them in a home with a stepdad, or maybe it's a real mom and dad that have never had children, aren't able to have children. You're going to take that child from their original real mom and dad.
So you're saying,
and you're going to put them in a brand new situation with government assistance, mind you, that comes along with money.
So you're asking me if I would take a child from a spot where they were being beaten by a drunken mother, mm-hmm. that let them live with no clean clothes, mm-hmm. and would take care of themselves before that child. Mm-hmm. Take that child and put them into mm-hmm. a healthy situation with a mother and father, mm-hmm. that would not hurt them, would raise them.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know they wouldn't hurt them.
But,
you don't know that.
But that's the situation.
They would be way more likely to hurt them than the original mom and dad.
There again, going with the whole situation you were just talking about, mm-hmm. was if you take them and you put them in another household with mm-hmm. a mother and father mm-hmm. that took care of them, made sure that they were healthy and mm-hmm. all this other stuff, yes, it would be better for them to be taken care of, not beaten, not discarded like a piece of trash by the original mother, and actually mm-hmm. treated the way they should be by another couple.
They can't. They're not the mom and dad.
But the mom and dad didn't know how to take care of them.
I agree. I agree to the facetious scenario we've laid out here. I agree. But they still, at the end of the day, long to be with their mom and dad. Right or wrong or indifferent.
Okay, but that's where...
Have you watched the movie The Blind? Bill Robertson's
No, I
life.
have not seen that movie.
There's a scene in there you need to see. It's about everything we're talking about. And if it was in place, what you're talking about right now, Phil and his siblings would have been removed from that household and raised somewhere else.
Maybe they should have been.
But that's his mom. I mean,
Okay.
she was a little bit nuts. But anyway, let's get back on.
No,
Common
we're,
sense
We're on a
here.
topic.
I just called you Rick for some reason. Rick?
Rick Grimes. Call me Rick Grimes.
Why not? Sounds good to me.
But I mean, that was that. But that's okay. This is a part of our show, though. We start off with a topic, but we can move into other things.
Okay.
This is a discussion show. If people don't like it, they can.
Listen to us again.
They could if they feel.
Thought I
like
was going to say something else.
Well, in all honesty, if they don't like what we have to say, they can go wherever else and listen to it.
Hey, we enjoy you guys listening. Keep on listening. I've got a secret at the end of the show. Just hang around. It's coming.
It is a secret because I have
It's
no
a
idea
secret.
what he's talking about.
It's a secret. Chris, how do you acquire common sense? Can you?
Living?
Here's a question. Can you acquire common sense?
Yes,
You think so?
by living.
Some would say you cannot acquire it. I would be under the belief that you have to acquire it, but I did read some say you could not acquire it. I don't understand it, but it says here that I read,
You read too much.
speed reader. I wish I could have read like this when I was in school. How do you acquire common sense? I'm glad you asked.
By living.
Ask someone how they see a situation or a thing. You can also read, you can study, watch videos, or otherwise seek out more information on subjects. As you learn more and experience more, you will gain more, say it with me, common
Knowledge.
sense.
Sense. Okay.
So, if you want to acquire more common sense, you can. But here's what I'm thinking. By what you said earlier, we talked about Albert Einstein and other geniuses
Like myself, yes.
like yourself. The mindset is so not like common folks that maybe the more you research, the less common you're going to be and the less common sense you will have. So there's going to be a point to where you're going to overload and become that 1% that looks the other direction. When you say left, they look right.
But at the same time, though, it's the definition that you were just giving is learning from others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes back to the saying that common sense is not so common because these days we don't really listen to other people.
But it has to be common sense in order to be common.
Correct, which is why there's not as much common, people don't have common sense these days.
I believe
Because it's not common because they are not listening and they are not listening to other people's experiences and taking from them.
I believe people listen still. They listen. But they listen with their arms folded and kind of I'm not listening. I don't really hear what you say. But in the back of their mind, there's something there, and they really are listening. Now, I think it's harder to get through to people nowadays. I do. But I still think people are acquiring common sense on a regular basis, and they're helping other folks to acquire it as well. It's all about loving one another, Chris.
Love one
Here we go.
another.
I thought you was going to do Love, Love Me Do by the Beatles.
No,
Love
we
Me
were
Do.
talking about church, so I went with the church song.
We were. Speaking of church, if an atheist knows there's no God.
You can't.
And a
know
believer knows there is a God. Where is the common sense? Sense is believing. An atheist believes in something. They believe there's no God. A believer believes in something. They have a sense there is a God.
But the believer uses faith, whereas by technical definition, the atheist has no faith because he does not believe in anything.
They believe there is no God. That's a belief in something.
That is a literal.
That's a belief in a
that
belief.
is a literal belief in nothing.
Belief in belief that there is nothing.
It's a belief in no.
So
belief.
where is the common sense there? That is total sense.
When I think it comes to God, this is going to sound weird, but I have feeling on it. Is when it comes to God, there is no common sense, and I say that because everybody's relationship with God is not a common thing.
Generally speaking, though, do you believe Jesus was on the cross, died for your sins, rose again on the third day?
Yes.
Okay. Generally speaking, there is common sense.
In Christianity. There are common beliefs. But your relationship
your
with
sense
God
is a belief. It's a feeling. It's a sense you have on something.
I've never known that I had a sixth sense called believing.
No, you have a sense that there is a God. Right? That's common to you. And the people around you. You have a common sense that there is a God. Right? I do. I'm not ashamed. I do have a sense. I do have a sense there is a God. I have a belief there's a God. I have a faith there's a God. You can put any word in there you want to. Yes, I believe it. Come on, man. But if someone comes along and says, I don't believe there is a God. I have a belief there is whatever. Good. I'm glad I wished you thought like I did. But hey, you have the right to do all that. Whatever you believe. And I still love them. Because loving, to me, is not so common. I don't know that majority of the people that we encounter on a regular basis have a common sense to love the next person. And by love, I mean, you can treat somebody good. You can give them a piece of candy every day, or you can even hug them. I mean,
that's to say giving somebody a piece of candy every day is love.
I was saying you could use that and still hate somebody. Love comes, for me, the way I look at it, comes from way deep in your soul. And when you care about somebody enough, in my opinion, again, and that's the one we're listening to at the moment. Then we'll listen to yours.
I don't want to listen to yours.
Put your headphones on. Your hands over your ears. Headphones. There you go. And
I can't hear it.
Exactly. You still talk. if someone loves others like they ought to, in their quiet time, they're going to be thinking about others. They're going to be praying for others. They're going to be wondering if others are okay. And for someone to be selfish enough about it's all about me and mine. Me and mine. I'm taking care of me and mine. That's love to a sense. That's not loving everybody.
Nope.
And I think that the commonality of love and common sense of love is just not around us. And that's sad to me.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to a lot of people these days are taught to love themselves before anybody else. And as Christians, we're called to love others over ourselves.
Yes. But I do believe this, Chris, that, and this may be splitting hairs, but I do believe you have to take care of, True. You do have to take care of self before you can love others.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that goes back to take care of the plank in your own eye before worrying about the speck in
You have
others.
to. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you take care of the plank, it's a lifetime job.
You got to take care of yourself before you can
Yes.
worry about other people's
Yes.
problems.
Yes. Because so many want to worry about others first. Oh, did you see the speck in Chris's eye? Yeah. You got a big stick sticking out of yours. Common sense is developed over time, Chris. It said here in one of the things I read, around 7 years old, humans make a gigantic jump in common sense around that age.
Should.
Before that age, it's all about learning from your household, what's going on there. Very impressionable from 0 to 7. But what you've acquired up to that point, now you're going to start showing some common sense. And then
Hopefully.
that grows with experiences, watching Bluey. That's how you acquire knowledge, right?
Yeah, for me, yeah. Okay, I'm done.
So if someone lacks common sense, and if they continue to believe or to act on something when there is evidence to suggest they would it would help them to go a different direction. So if all the kids are jumping off a cliff into the lake and they're not coming back up, 12 just jumped.
Okay.
0 have resurfaced. Common sense should tell you, I'm not jumping.
But who's to say that they're not going down and falling into a magic hole that takes them to a candy mountain?
If that
Charlie.
person is that's what the next 11 were thinking. So we're at number 13. They're not thinking that way. They actually have common sense, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not jumping there if they don't resurface."
Candy mountain, Charlie.
So if the ones behind them continue to jump, that is a lack of common sense.
Yes.
That's all I was trying to say.
I got lost on.
I know you did. Did you ever read Thomas Paine, Common Sense?
Over a decade ago.
Yeah, what'd you think about it?
I don't remember because it was over a decade ago.
Yeah, well, it was good.
It's one of those things that I learned it because I had to in school, and then
Most everything I learned in school was that way. I learned it.
you
I
learned it
lost
for school, so then you lost it.
I learned it. I lost it. I attained 0.
Yep.
So, hey guys, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
We love people listening. Share our podcast. I just learned how to do this. I have learned to share our podcast on social media. Hopefully. Let me back up.
Hopefully he shared it.
I believe I shared the podcast. If I did, wonderful. I even liked it. So
Mark needs your help because he is technologically inept, and he needs.
I can do a little.
a little.
Yeah.
He needs your help with
You
getting.
need your money. I don't.
What money? Are you getting money from this?
Well, I was wanting to buy that laptop.
Yeah, I know you were, but so are you taking money from the podcast?
Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming.
I wish I could get paid for this.
So share and like our podcast. Listen to it first. Tell your friends about it. And here it comes. Here comes the surprise. Ding, 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 ding.
It's a surprise to me because I have
Ding,
no
a
idea.
ding, a ding. So if you text me the words common sense to 615. Okay, that was quick. 615-330-3644. Give me the words common sense and give me a suggestion for a future podcast. We will use your suggestion, and if you want us to give you a shout out, we'll do it. If you want me to shut up, I'll think about it.
If you want me to go outside and scream whatever, depending on what it is, I might do that.
That'd be cool. But yeah, text me the number.
No, text
the
you
number,
the
the word, the common sense word, 615-330-3644. What do we say now, Chris?
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
We'll try to do this again another time.
Out of here.
Oh, goodness.